Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of One More Thing. I, of course, as always, never changes. I am Jesse Dollemore. This is actually the second time that I'm recording this because I am such a technological doofus that apparently I don't even know how to run my own camera. So we're going to give this another shot and see how it goes. Good times. Anyway, usually I start these episodes by talking about a specific topic that I want to cover. And today, there's so many great questions that I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to forge right ahead. We're going to start with the questions, and I think it is going to be great. I really appreciate all of the participation in this. I had to get a new Google number, which, again, I'll give you the number now, 714-576-4054. And I also got a new email address for this. It's no longer the old one. It is now onemorething@dollemore.com. Fancy, right? Anyway, I think I'm liking this. It seems to be going over well with the audience. I think it's important to feature questions that are coming direct from the audience. Being an independent creator, it gives me latitude to do whatever the hell I want to do, and I take a lot of feedback from you and kind of mold the show into what we want it to be, building a community here. So thank you for your participation. This has been overwhelming how many questions I get. I really have to pick through to try to, there's just no way I could answer them all. But one, there's duplicates, but also there's just the sheer number. It's dozens and dozens and dozens of voicemails and the same number of emails and comments, obviously. So thank you very much. Let's get started right away with the first question from Thomas Lee, DDS. Dr. Lee, it's a YouTube comment. Can a president pardon someone of crimes not convicted yet? Can they delay prosecution until Pence is out of the White House? Well, as far as the second part of that, I think your impeachment isn't a criminal prosecution. So I think you mean is he impeached and removed? Could they wait to pardon? I think it'll be answered by the first part. So can a president pardon someone of crimes not yet convicted? Absolutely. There was a Supreme Court case in 1866 that dealt with disbarred members of the Confederacy. And then they were pardoned, but then it was questioned how the pardon went down. Anyway, the case is called Ex parte Garland, and there's a part of the decision by the Supreme Court that reads, the pardon of power conferred by the Constitution upon the president is unlimited, except in cases of impeachment. It extends to every offense known to the law and may be exercised at any time after its commission, either before legal proceedings are taken or during their pendency. Or after conviction and judgment, the power is not subject to legislative control. So that part in there, it says either before the legal proceedings are taken out or even during a trial, a pardon can be issued. So absolutely, the president can be pardoned. Well, let me put it this way. In more recent times, for instance, President Jimmy Carter, pardoned hundreds of thousands of draft evaders after Vietnam who either fled to Canada or just burned their draft cards. They were all pardoned, or not all, but hundreds of thousands of people were pardoned by Jimmy Carter before they'd ever had a chance to go to trial and be convicted of anything. And then more recently, and probably more famously, is President Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon prior to any conviction of any crime, before a charge could even be leveled against Nixon through indictment. He was pardoned for his crime. So absolutely. It's a great question. I appreciate it very much, Doc. Those are the types of scenarios that we're facing here. I think that we need to be preparing ourselves for the possibility of Donald Trump getting pardoned for federal crimes. I know that we don't have the votes yet in the Senate, and it might be optimistic or wishful thinking to believe that he will be removed, but I'm just that much of a Pollyanna pie in the sky optimist that I believe he will be removed. And I think it's likely that he will be pardoned by a Mike Pence for his many, many crimes that are going to be uncovered during the House's impeachment inquiry. However, like I've said before, he cannot be pardoned for the impeachment by the president, nor can he be pardoned for state crimes. And there are plenty of things that are going on right now in the state of New York investigating his finances and whatnot that he's not going to be able to be pardoned for. So I think there will be consequences. But to answer the question, yes, the president can pardon anything even prior, and any offense under the law. I mean, if Donald Trump was to murder someone on the way out, he could be pardoned for that, even before a charge was brought. So maybe not a perfect system, but we don't plan for these extreme cases. The law usually is written for the general. So next is a question from Mario.
Hi, Jesse. Thanks for what you're doing, and I think it's a great thing. There's a lot of times, a lot of places people want to go for the kind of information that you're putting out, and I just think it's wonderful what you're doing. I'll jump right into my question. My question is this. It doesn't seem that anyone's talking about the fact that the Trump cabinet is completely refusing to cooperate with anything. And so what if the process follows through? Impeachment inquiry, impeach to remove, and he just says no. Does the president not command all police forces, military, FBI, and any agency that would potentially forcefully remove him? How would this president be forced out if he refuses to leave after being impeached and removed? I looked on the internet to see if this was a ridiculous question. I was almost certain there must have been an answer, but I haven't found one yet. So I'm hoping maybe you can help me with that. Thank you. Mario from Las Vegas.
Mario from Las Vegas. Thank you for the question. It's not a stupid question. And it's actually, I don't even really believe an outlandish question based on Donald Trump's past and how he likes to kind of trial balloon certain ideas out there. And that's one of them. It's, well, if when I'm still president in 16 or 20 years, he says dumb shit like that as a way to float out, what would be the reaction? I don't believe it's always a joke. Obviously, he likes to troll a little bit because he is a child rather than president of the United States. But anyway, to answer your question, what would happen? Well, one, if he was impeached by the House, that would mean a majority of the House voted to impeach. And then if he's subsequently removed by the Senate due to that impeachment, 2/3 of the 67 people have to vote him out. So that means the vast majority of the Senate also is in agreement. So you have a large majority of both the House and the Senate that have gone through this constitutionally mandated, constitutionally outlined process. Once he's voted out, he's not president anymore. So he wouldn't command the military. He wouldn't command the FBI because they would, in my optimistic opinion, they would adhere to what the constitutional process was. And then immediately the vice president would be sworn in, and he would have the option to remove. So even if Donald Trump just locked himself in the bathroom of the White House, he's no longer the president. He's a dude who shouldn't be there. He's trespassing. They're going to get his ass out of there. Now, it would pose somewhat of a constitutional crisis if Pence were to, be the lackey that he is and for some reason turn down the presidency of the United States of America. I don't see that happening, but, wilder things have happened in people's imagination. So we'll see what happens. It's not a stupid question. It is certainly something we should prepare ourselves for because we're dealing with Donald Trump. And he is a loose cannon. Anyway, Mario, thank you very much. Next question is from Deborah.
Hello, this is Deborah. I'm calling from Louisville, Kentucky. I've got a couple of questions for you. A question. Currently, Giuliani is Trump's personal attorney, supposedly. And I mean that with sarcasm. I understand that he has to keep confidentiality between he and Trump as a lawyer and client. My question is this. I know he said past post within the political realm. However, does Giuliani, does he currently have the same security clearance that any other cabinet members have? I know in the past he may have, but I was wondering, is that something that gets updated? Does he qualify security-wise like others do now? Have a great day, and thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Deborah. This is a very, very good question. I actually have asked it at least once in a video. I did a video, like 3 questions we need answered from Giuliani. And this is one of them, is do you have a security clearance? We don't know. Given my understanding of how things work and what the strictures are, and the rigors of the background check. I had a top secret clearance when I was in the Marine Corps. And they went back and they talked to your neighbors and they talked to your old high school teachers and your old high school friends. And they do a deep dive. And based on Rudy Giuliani's time since he left his mayorship of New York City, he has done all kinds of shady work, not just in Ukraine, but in Turkey and, floating around all kinds of Eastern European nations. And it's a problematic existence that he has led, trying to get his fledgling cybersecurity business off the ground. So it's a question that needs to be asked. Does he have an FS-86 filled out? But based on the chicanery that's been going on around the Trump White House with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump and some of these other types who have had their security clearances denied and then provisionally or just unilaterally approved by Donald Trump, who knows? But shadow diplomacy is not something that should be done when we have an actual staff in place at the State Department to cover matters of state and diplomacy. And Rudy Giuliani's not doing that. He is acting on behalf of Donald Trump as a personal attorney, not as a diplomat, not as an envoy, not as an official representative of the United States government working for the State Department. That is a problem. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump says or what Mick Mulvaney says going out there like the goofy-ass little turd he was today. It is not proper. Just because the president can do it technically doesn't mean it's appropriate. And Deborah, the question needs to be answered. So thank you. I don't know. I don't have an answer. But damn it, Rudy Giuliani, do you have a security clearance? Have you filled out an FS-86? We want to know. All right. Next question, Lawrence.
Hey, Jesse. This is Lawrence. I'm calling from the suburbs of Atlanta, mostly called Marietta out here in the area that I'm in. And the question that I just had for you, well, first, I just want to thank you for your service, and not only your military service, but the service that you're doing for the country here as far as covering these political issues and going on the air and letting everybody know what the truth is about. Definitely appreciate that as an American myself. And the question that I have for you is that if these White House memos and everything that they're putting out to basically just block their employees and everyone in the State Department, Justice Department, and everything from testifying before Congress, which is supposed to be an equal branch of government, if they continue to block that and say that people won't testify, and their sycophants and everybody go ahead and continue to follow their lead and not testify, what is the legal remedy? I know that they say that they can lock them up in the Congress and all this stuff like that, but none of that has been done yet. So is there any other legal remedy or something that they could possibly do to compel these people to have to come and testify and tell the truth 100%? And on the back end, if they do find out to be telling any lies or spin or anything like that to help the president, what remedy do we have for any type of punishment? So thank you for taking my question, and I watch the Dollemore Daily every day or wherever it pops up. Love your show, everything like that. Keep it going. Thanks for having me. Bye. Thanks
for the question, Lawrence. Listen, I have been I'm a critic where criticism needs to land. And that, if that's Republicans, then I'm gonna shit on the Republicans. And if Democrats need a little of it, I'm gonna give it to them too. And this is an area of governance, and whether it be strategy or whatever, but the Democrats need to be tougher. They get worked year after year and decade after decade because they appear weak and they get walked over by Republicans. And we're in another era of it right now. Republicans hold endless hearings on Benghazi, which was a tragedy. But it was one of those things that happened that there was not one particular person who's going to take the fall for it or is to blame for something. Certain things are out of people's... I'm not going to get into all of that. But anyway, Democrats need to be tougher. So when they exert their constitutionally mandated power to create an impeachment inquiry, which gives them more influence and power to investigate the President of the United States, and they issue subpoenas to have people brought before them to compel their testimony. A subpoena isn't an invitation. A subpoena is an order to be there to testify. And when you have Rudy Giuliani refusing, saying, I'm not gonna cooperate, well, then they need to go to court immediately upon the missed date, the court date, the testimony date. They immediately need to go to a federal judge and have that federal judge compel that testimony. And then, if it is ignored, that judge should find that person not necessarily in contempt of Congress, but in contempt of the order of the court. Then U.S. Marshals or whatever law enforcement organization will go out there and yank that person and put them behind bars until they testify. Not unheard of either. During the Watergate hearings, there were several members of the Nixon administration who tried this cute bullshit. One, G. Gordon Liddy, refused to testify. Obviously, we have a Fifth Amendment right under the Constitution to not testify and incriminate ourselves. That right does not extend to testifying against other people. So if you're asked questions about your colleagues who are also in league with you in this deal, Watergate, you are compelled to testify. You don't have a Fifth Amendment right to not testify. He refused. He was found in contempt of Congress, and he was sent to prison for like 5 or 6 years. So Democrats need to grow a little spine here. They are the adults in the room. They need to start acting like it. Now, the other aspect of this deals with the sergeant at arms, because the Congress does have authority in certain ways, and that is what this next question is about.
Hello, Mr. Dollemore. My God, I love your show. I watch you on YouTube. I don't have a chance to catch you early on your podcast because I'm at work. I do construction. But I just have one question for you because I started watching I've been watching your show for a few months, but I just wanted to ask you one quick question now that you have your One More Thing podcast. My question to you is this. All of the people that Donald Trump tells or the White House or the State Department tells don't testify when they get a subpoena. How are they allowed to do this? And why don't the Democrats send the sergeant at arms to send him and whoever deputies, whatever, to go arrest these people and put their butts in jail? Because I'm looking at MSNBC right now, tonight, and Rudy Giuliani said that he's not going to comply. I hope you can help me out with that one, sir. I'm looking for your next One More Thing. I appreciate your podcast. Mad love to you. And you take care of yourself, brother.
You too. Well, first of all, a couple of things. A few things. One is, this is YouTube. This is not a podcast. I'll just turn this into a shameless self-promotion moment. My podcast is called I Doubt It with Dollemore. It is me and a co-host the lovely, talented, and scholarly Brittany Page, as I say every episode. It's a twice weekly podcast that you can find at Dollemore.com, which is my website, but it's also on Apple Podcasts, which used to be called iTunes. It's on Stitcher. It's on Spotify. It's on Google anywhere podcasts, which is like an internet radio show. That's what the podcast is. This is just YouTube. This is just YouTube. Anyway, that's a very common confusion, and I think it's because I have the little watermark down in the corner, whichever corner is down here, that says I Doubt It with Dollemore. That was meant to be like to promote the show, but people think it's the same thing. It is not. I'm a lot looser on the podcast, a lot more F-bombs on the podcast because I don't have YouTube advertisement to deal with. So I can say what I want, talk like I want, and it's a good time. I would suggest you subscribe and listen. As far as the question is concerned, now that the shameless self-promotion is over, the Sergeant-at-Arms of the House and the Senate do have some authority over the Capitol Police. So this is another element that I absolutely believe Democrats need to get off their asses and start doing something with. If someone like let's say use Rudy Giuliani as an example again, if he refuses, he misses his testimony date, his hearing date, they need to send out the Capitol Police, dispatch them. These are federal officers to go and corral him back and bring him back for testimony. Then if he refuses, then maybe go through the process while he's detained in the Capitol. You go through the process with the federal judge to enforce this. But the Sergeant at Arms of the House isn't some ceremonial position. There are several, not a lot of times, but there are outlined situations where senators or congressmen and women, members of Congress, will refuse to show up for a vote that is a requirement. And the Sergeant at Arms can be dispatched to bring them forcefully, like handcuff them to a rolling office chair and bring them to the floor to the vote. That is something that is in the power of the Congress. And again, Democrats are maybe used to being walked on by Republicans, but they need to find it within themselves to do what it takes under the law and under the Constitution and under their granted duties and authority to preserve our republic. That's what's at stake right now. You don't have to be polite all the time. Do what is commanded of you by the American people. Right now, there's over a majority of the people that want Donald Trump impeached and removed from office for very real reasons. This isn't a political Benghazi type hearing. This is asking foreign actors, Ukraine, China, communist China, asking them to interfere in our democracy. What are you doing, Nancy Pelosi? What are you doing, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler? Do something. Exert your power under the Constitution. All right. Next up, next question.
Hello, Mr. Dollemore. My name is Mr. Wilson, and I have a question for you. And by the way, love your show. Please stay on no matter which administration is on. I love your opinions. My question to you is, do you think the next administration will go after the previous administration for crimes? I thank you for your answer, and I hope to hear from you on your next video. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson. Well, first of all, I get a lot of voicemails and a lot of emails, and I get called Mr. Dollemore. So call me Jesse, call me Dollemore, call me dipshit, whatever. I don't like Mr. Dollemore. It doesn't make me feel comfortable inside. So just Jesse or Jesse D or Dollemore, not Mr. Dollemore. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. As far as the both parties thing, like I said, I only have one gear, and that's honesty. So I don't have it in me to bend what I believe. I have certainly changed. The arc of my beliefs and my political ideology has certainly shifted over the course of, the last decade. drastically over the last decade. But I can only be true to myself. And like I'm criticizing Democrats today, I will absolutely be doing that when they take back the White House. When there's something to be criticized, I will always do that. You can count on that. That is for sure. As far as the question is concerned, I think we need to be careful here. Now, technically, the question is, will the next administration go after the previous administration for crimes? Now, that is a key word, crimes. Absolutely, they should, if there are crimes. Now, if it's just a difference of policy, like for instance, and I'm not talking about throwing kids in cages because I believe that is criminal, but just how we're lowering the number of visas that are issued, or we're drastically reducing the number of refugees that come in. As deplorable as that is, and as wrong-headed as that is as far as policy is concerned, that is a consequence of election. The wrong guy got into office because of our goofy electoral college system. So if we're going to go after people in this administration, it better be for actual crimes, because we don't want to waste a bunch of time looking into the past when we have the entire future ahead of us to create progress for our society. No one is above the law. No one should be able to escape the law. Absolutely, crime should be prosecuted and gone after vigorously. But we need to make sure that we're not wasting a bunch of time focused on the past when we have the future ahead of us. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. Thank you very much. Next is from Scott.
Hey, Jesse, this is Scott Beard. And I was just wondering if the knucklehead is impeached and removed from office, what happens to the Secret Service of those rotten kids of his? Just asking for a friend. Thank you.
Well, I think I've answered this in a previous video. Based on the Presidential Retirement Act, or the Former President's Act, I think it's called, if Donald Trump is removed from office through impeachment, like if he resigns, he gets to keep his benefits. Secret Service, pension, all that. If he is removed through impeachment, he no longer has those benefits. And the only reason that his rotten kids, as you put it, have those benefits is because of his service as president. So he would be stripped of those entitlements, and so would his family. So they would not have. You would be free, Scott, to walk up to Don Jr. and cave that chin of his in a little bit more than it already is. I wouldn't advise it, because that's violence, and there are other ways to solve our problems. And also there would be criminal charges that you would face, but to each his own. To each his own, Scott. That is it for the questions. Oh no, I do have one more thing. I'm running out of time here. I don't know if I'm going to do this all the time because I don't want to encourage the trolls, but here's a segment just for today, we'll say. The dipshit of the day, Jim Thomas. Jim Thomas, with his wonderful ability with the English language, he is a master of wasting his time coming onto the YouTube and saying awesome things like Democrats. Go play hide and go fuck yourself. Wow. I get a lot of trolls on the YouTube. I've gotten death threats. I've had videos made about me with crosshairs with firing and my head exploding that YouTube refused to take down until the person actually took the video down. Anyway, I don't want to encourage this kind of behavior, but it is emblematic. I talk about this on my podcast a lot, that Donald Trump kind of ushered in an era of the politically uninitiated, the kind of the unwashed, the uneducated in politics, that when he finally came along, these people who had never voted before in their lives, who had never been involved in politics, he spoke their language, the language of hate, the language of paranoia, and he resonated, that language resonated with them. Jim Thomas seems like one of these people. And I believe that they may kind of hang on when things go back to normal, where we have normal, terrible candidates like Mitt Romney, not, virulent white supremacists like Donald Trump. They may hang around a little bit, but they're eventually going to go away and things will go back to normal. It may take a generation or so, but we will get back to normal in this country. But anyway, kudos to Jim for the shockingly terrible punctuation and spelling and ability with his, I'm assuming, native tongue. So anyway, that is it. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for sticking around. I really want to create something unique here with this. I eventually will get the tech figured out where I can take live calls on the air. Maybe we'll feature some trolls that will live call in. Who knows? But I want us to build this together. If you have suggestions, I'm down for them. I know the frames behind me are crooked. That's not my skill set. I'm not here to straighten frames. If it bugs you, this is all I got. So, if you appreciate what I do and you're in a financial position to do so, I would encourage you to come on board as a channel member here on YouTube. You can click the join button. There are I send out stickers. I'm getting ready to send out a big batch of stickers right now to new channel members. There are other rewards. There are private community chats. Right now, I'm getting ready to take a trip for a week, the first weekend of November, to New Orleans with my wife. And I'm asking for topics, the videos that I can post, schedule ahead of time that aren't headline dependent. And that's where that's happening. There's a discussion taking place there. So I would invite you to join the channel. The other thing about it is, apart from the rewards, is you get to know that you're helping independent media just like this to thrive, to get the truth out, to also amplify your voices and your questions, which I have been passionate about. Look, I've only been on YouTube for 2 years or so, 3 years maybe. But on my podcast for almost 6 years, we've been trying to move the conversation forward on an episode-by-episode basis. It's very important to me, not only as an American, not only as a podcaster, not only as a YouTuber. I think it is integral to build a stronger society, and that might be lofty, but that's where my head's at. So I appreciate your participation today. Thank you for watching. Please consider being a channel member, and you can send your questions to 714-576-4054. You can also record a voice memo on your smartphone and email it to the brand new email address, onemorething@dollemore.com. You can also just email regular old email questions there. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. I am looking forward to this journey with you, and we'll see you next time.